Now we move to the farewell and the award section of today's program. First, the farewell notes from our chairperson, Professor Siddharth Mishra, reporter, editor, author, documentary maker, and as he prefers to be called, a storyteller. He has been the mentor of this course and the best person to deliver the farewell notes.
Dr. Khare, Mr. VIPS, Professor Charulata Singh, my colleagues who mentor the students, my faculty colleagues, and dear students. Patience is hallmark of this profession, and we had a live example. He spoke for about 30 minutes and answered questions for about 40 minutes. So we as communicators, we as media persons should always be ready to answer the queries of the people. And we can only answer the queries of the people if we are equipped with knowledge and appropriate language to answer those queries. Today's problem is, and many issues which he has touched upon, today's problem is that there is both lack of language and there is both lack of communication skill. So it is where the credibility of the profession is facing a challenge. And the best example and the most live example of it has been the coverage of Operation Sindoor. All of you know that most of you know that I'm an early riser, go for my morning walk. So on one of these, during these tumultuous days, one of my co-workers, he saw him rushing to me with bleary eyes. And he said that I have been calling you all through the night, you did not pick up the phone. Thankfully, fortunately, that night I had forgotten to put my phone on the ring mode and it was on the silent mode. And then when I asked him ki, ऐसी क्या बात हो गई? He said, आपको कुछ पता नहीं आप, and he was, hammer and tongs on me that I'm no good a reporter, I have no contacts, no information, nothing. Then I said, but what is it that, he said, Islamabad capture हो गया, मुनीर arrest हो गया, ये सारी बातें आई रात को टेलीविजन पे और आपको कुछ पता नहीं है. He said, Mr. Singh, I would wait for my newspapers to come and verify why has really Islamabad fallen or has Munir been arrested. Now, any sincere person, any person with some amount of understanding would know that it is not that easy to go and capture Islamabad. And why would the government of India want to capture Islamabad in the first place? And then why would government of India want to arrest Asim Munir in the first place? So the reporter who is the person, the broadcaster, who is communicating this kind of information, he is doing it from the point of view of paradigm change. So you were talking about the readership. Today we have moved to what is called the consumer of the news. How much of the news is being consumed, how much of the clicks and the TRPs it is getting, and it doesn't really matter to the person that after an hour or so the news falls down as a false news, fake news, something of that kind. But how much the news has been consumed, that is what is the biggest challenge to this profession. Second thing is, which I again insist in my class and which you would also agree with me, sir, that unless and until we understand something, we cannot really know. Even if we have the information, we cannot interpret it correctly. So the same morning I went to the barber shop, and I don't watch news on television, but the barber shop had the television on and there was no escape from it. And the person who was the anchor was saying that Shehbaz Sharif he was creating a kind of similarity between Shehbaz Sharif and Nero of Rome, the great Nero of Rome. And he said that जब रोम जल रहा था तो नीरो फिडल बजा रहा था, और शहबाज शरीफ जब इस्लामाबाद में आ लगा तो वो स्विमिंग कर रहा था. Now this bit, made me see what is this connection? Why Shehbaz Sharif was swimming? First of all, if there's a fire, how can somebody be in a swimming pool, It's very, very difficult to comprehend. And if there's a fire in Islamabad, how can somebody be swimming in a pool in Islamabad? Then one followed that news, and it was a clipping of Shehbaz Sharif, which he was addressing the military leaders, where he was patting their back and telling them that, and he was trying to communicate to them and to the larger world outside that, I have given all the decision-making powers to the army chief, and I had asked him not to bother me unless and until it's a matter of, some great international urgency. And he communicated it कि सुबह की नमाज के बाद मैं स्विमिंग करने जाता हूँ, मैं स्विमिंग कर रहा था, उस समय मेरे पास फ़ोन आया और असीम मुनीर ने मुझे बताया कि ये वगैरह हुआ. So now the anchor cannot comprehend this. Now here Asim Munir is making a very, very important statement. One, he is saying that whatever is happening, it is the general and the military who is responsible for it. I am distancing myself from it. And if they at all get some credit for it, he will again take credit for that also. Look, I allowed my army to have a free hand and this. But this has not been understood by the anchor who is communicating कि वो नीरो और एक तो पहले वो बार्बर शॉप में जो बार्बर ज़्यादा देख रहे थे and they I'm very sure they really did not know who Nero was और नीरो क्यों क्या बजा रहा था. In fact, मैं बार बार asked कि वो क्या बजा रहा था. तो and I really did not find a Indian equivalent of the fiddle. तो and I could have told him कि वो सारंगी बजा रहा था या सितार बजा रहा था जब रोम चल रहा था. So the biggest challenge for today's world of communication, as we all know, we all have been discussing this, is fake news, is wrong information, and your biggest test is the market, because today market is consumer of whatever you communicate. In fact, one of our recent conclaves, I mentioned this, that even in the field of advertising, and there was this case study of Maggi noodles being called bad and being taken off the shelf. And at that point of time, somebody tried to create a market for oneself. The Baba for Haridwar, he launched a Maggi noodle, what is this pharmacy called? Patanjali Pharmacy launched Maggi noodles, and Baba ended up on the television screen eating the noodles. Whatever. So, and that was the biggest, that proved to be the biggest non-starter. He was good selling Ayurvedic drugs, he was good selling yoga, but the same person cannot be accepted by consumer as eating noodles and selling noodles. So again, whatever you are communicating, whatever you have to also ensure that your consumer is ready to take your word by its value. He is not going to get carried away for too long. Lastly, sir, the question about the sources which was asked, the sources are very important. But then, you really don't need to have a prime minister or a chief minister or a defense minister. Your source could be anybody in the hierarchy. And as you have rightly said, that even the best source, the crime reporters, when we started as crime reporters, the best source we had was the police chowki in the hospitals, where all the MLC cases, the medical legal cases, they all came first reported. They did not go to the doctor first. They were first brought to the Havaldar, the head constable there, who recorded a thing. And if you had a contact with the police chowki, you had all the cases in your hand. So so you would say, as on day one, how can I be somebody have a contact with the prime minister or the chief minister or the defense minister? But you can definitely have a contact with somebody in the police chowki of Loknayak Jayaprakash Hospital. And where, and invariably when Delhi was hit hard by terrorism, especially in the 90s, when all the blasts were taking place, most of these blast victims came to LNJP hospital. And that is where we reporters were managed. Another very important thing that as mass communicators, today when we were coming, I was mentioning this to my colleague, Professor Ramesh Sharma. We were passing by what you call Patiala House Court. You see the fun of going to the field and seeing things for yourself. Today, 25 years later, I can recall that I saw Chandra Swami standing in the dock. That I saw, the lawyers, rigorously working, the top lawyers of the country, fighting it out to ensure that Ashok Jain, the owner of Times of India, was not brought into the dock. And when you realize that you are actually, one saw there was this famous Connaught Place shooting case where wrongly people were killed. The actual gangsters were caught and brought and produced in the court. So if you are in the field, if you are there on the watch and ward, you will be a witness to the history happening. And then last of the thing, about the, reading, whatever you get to read, your story may be in a paper bag. A story may be there. An idea may be there. So you would recall about 20 years back, we had this agitation by the Gujar community of Rajasthan demanding reservations. And at that point of time, in our editorial meetings in the evening, I was for the reservation, the other group was against the reservation, and I, in course of discussion, I said ki they are intelligent people capable of doing very good things. Then my editor said ki, why do you say that? I said India's best Shire is from that community, from the Gujar community. And my editor, late Chandan Mitra, then said, let's end the meeting here. Now, ab wahan se aap shaar bilaye lage, mujhe shairi nahi sunni, paper nikalna hai. Next day morning, Hindustan Times had a story by historian Pankaj Mishra, which said that in Ludhiana, there was used to be a Muslim Gujar community which migrated in large numbers to Pakistan after partition. And then I texted my editor that, sir, please see this story. He said, I've seen it. And next day in the meeting, he said that, and he knew whom I was talking about. He was a great connoisseur of Bollywood songs and music and this thing. In the next day in the meeting, he asked me, how come did you know that Sahir Ludhiani was a Gujar? I said, sir, there was a Gujar Mahasammelan at where this Akshardham temple exists. And I had gone there as a reporter, and they distribute literature. In all these programs and functions that you go, they distribute literature. And you must read that literature. The story may be there, and there was my story that it said, हमारे विद्वान जन, और उसके ऊपर सबसे ऊपर में उनका नाम लिखा था. So that I did not do a story that day, but few years later, when there was this agitation, that information, that knowledge came in handy, and I could give this thing. So you want to go to advertising, you want to go to PR, or if you want to go to journalism, of course, anywhere in the field of communication, if you are lacking in knowledge, and if you are lacking in skills to communicate, I think this profession is not for you. But this can be very easily earned by going out and doing some hard work, being out in the field, reading, meeting people, talking to people, interacting with people, and they are your best sources. Maybe at times a better source than the Prime Minister of the country. My congratulations to the passing out batch. It has been a wonderful experience to be working with you, and the best compliment which I got yesterday was that initially we found you to be inscrutable. We did not really know that what you wanted us to do. But my satisfaction is that at the end of the course, you all know what you have done, and you all are ready. Some of you have already got your engagements in the industry. Some of you are having big interviews scheduled for tomorrow. So all the best for the interviews and best wishes to you all. Thank you so much.